Today on Shed Talk with Kevin Halliday, we welcome Amy Bondar, a powerful voice in wellness, nutrition, and healing. For men who can carry stress in silence, push through exhaustion, and ignore what their body is telling them to say, this conversation matters. Amy helps us understand how food, stress, mindset, and mental health are deeply connected, and why real strength starts with listening inward. Welcome, Amy, to Shed Talk. Creating curiosity by asking better questions. This is Shed Talk. Thanks for joining me on Shed Talk.
Thanks for having me.
You know what? It was interesting. It really took us a while to connect. And we were talking about when we had met, and we had met, we're at CAPS, right?
Yeah.
And it was about, you know what, the biggest pet peeve I have is when you get together, we make an appointment that we want to get together so we can actually do this podcast and do it. And guess what happened? It took us forever.
It did.
And on my end, it was like we couldn't get it going on my side and then do it. But I want to thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me. Yeah, it's the follow-up is so important, right? Because you never know when that next perfect opportunity or conversation is going to happen. So I'm glad we made it happen.
Yeah, and it's interesting because we talk about follow-up, okay? And we say something, okay? We say what we're going to do, and we say, I'm going to stick to it. I got to have action. I got to create it. And it seems to be when we talk action, this is everybody, because my listeners as well, we say something, we hope we do it, and we create goals, and we hope we get through them. And what we say is who we are. And then here we are having this conversation and not doing what we say we're going to do. But it's okay. We caught back up. We were able to start all over and do it again. And it kind of reminds me of what you're doing with nutrition. And men all of a sudden talking about being healthy.
Yeah. I think it's so common for people to have great intention with their nutrition. I want to eat really well today. And then all of a sudden the day goes on and it just doesn't happen the way we intended it to. But the key is to keep going and to actually do the work to understand why you may have gone off path in your day or in your evening or the next day. And that's the missing piece in nutrition. A lot of people have the book knowledge, have the know-how. I think I know what I should be eating. But then when it comes down to it, actually don't do the follow-up, the follow-through with it.
And why is that?
A few reasons, I think. Number one, sometimes our goals are too lofty with nutrition. We think that we have to be perfect with our diet. And the truth is that perfection doesn't exist with nutrition. Just like everything in life, we have ups and downs with things. Sometimes we're on financially, sometimes things are off. Sometimes our relationships are on, sometimes they're off. And the same is true with food. Sometimes we have great days and sometimes we have a lot of off moment days, right? And so we have to make sure that our nutritional goals are actually in alignment with what's most important to us. And that's a big piece. So for example, especially for men, making money, working, those are really important values. And so you have to link your nutrition to what you care most about in your life so that you have buy-in, so that you have purpose for actually to commit and make those goals happen. So those are a few things. And the third piece is the emotional reasons why we go off path with our food. Food and emotion are huge, and exploring that is really important.
So let's talk a little bit about emotion, because all of a sudden, and I'm going to speak from experience because I go and I'll do bodybuilding competitions and stuff. Oh yeah, it's easy, lose weight and here do it. But all of a sudden you'll get into a mindset that all of a sudden I had a great breakfast. My lunch is all dialed in. Then all of a sudden I'm going to go to the gym in the evening. So I'm all set. But then all of a sudden the evening comes and that food choice, and the foods are the foods are the right choice. But then all of a sudden it's the emotional add-on. Oh, you know what? I need that comfort food. What does that mean, and how do you avoid that?
Yeah, well, I don't know if we actually avoid it. We have to explore it. So I like to talk about food and cravings in 3 different ways. I talk about physical cravings, emotional cravings, and soulful cravings. So we'll go through each one. So physically, why we might have a craving is because perhaps what we ate in our day actually wasn't as dialed in as we thought. So yeah, maybe our macronutrients were off. Maybe we didn't eat enough protein or enough essential fat. Maybe we didn't get enough natural sodium in our day, so then we might be craving chips later in the evening. So there's physical reasons why we might actually be craving a food from a pure macronutrient perspective. But also on a physical level, we have something called neurotransmitters, and this is very important. So I do something called neural nutrient therapy, and what that does is that it's looking at how our neurotransmitters are functioning. So our neurotransmitters are our feel-good hormones. They dictate how we think, how we feel, how we function and behave in our day. And I like to refer to them as members of a band. And if any of those members are out of tune, that might dictate why we're craving, why we're emotional, why we're stressed, etc. So for example, if somebody is low in a neurotransmitter called serotonin, which is like our inner sunshine, our inner happiness, we might crave food that actually elevates that serotonin, which are typically carbs, or it could be even alcohol. If we're really stressed out, we have a lot of overwhelm and panic and anxiety, we might be low in a neurotransmitter called GABA, our inner calm. And if we don't have enough GABA, we seek out food that boosts GABA, which is typically our salty, crunchy foods. So we can go through each of those neurotransmitters and I assess those, but that's a huge physical reason why we can't seem to stay on path with our food, no matter how much we try, because our cravings, our addictions are actually driven by neural nutrient deficiencies. So that's real physical reasons why we might crave.
Then I keep beating myself up, or the listeners will be beating themselves up. I know better. I got to get through this. I got to stop. I think I'm there. And then it's like, how do they get that next level? Like, how would you say if you have that craving, is they're saying, all right, I'm craving chips because I'm low on sodium. And then would it be one of those, I'm not going to have the chips, I'll do something different? Like, how do you react to that?
Yeah, well, I mean, that's on paper, again, that's sort of the easy thing that we think we can do, right? And so sometimes people are really great at overriding their cravings where they feel like they have a bit more of that self-control, self-discipline. But the truth is that cravings often are not about discipline. They're usually because your neurotransmitters are deficient or there's an emotional component as to why that triggered you. But I would say if you're conscious enough to stop yourself in the craving, to be like, hey, I'm really craving these chips, what could I do differently? Then you have to really slow down. You have to be mindful and you have to really actually think about, okay, what is this really about? Am I stressed? So do I need to go for a walk? Am I actually just hungry? Do I need to actually eat a proper meal? But so often our cravings really only show up in a stress response. So we're often too stressed and not embodied. We're not conscious and in our body when we're having that craving. And so we typically get, it overrides us versus us being in control of it. But if you can actually step in, land in your body, do some deep breathing, slow down, and actually think about what this craving is asking of you, then that's part of the work. But what I've found in my practice, and I've been doing this for 23 years, Kevin, that so often it's not about willpower and motivation. It's actually getting to the root of why those cravings are showing up in the first place.
So how are they showing up?
Well, like I said, if you're finding that you're having persistent cravings, maybe because you're really stressed or maybe because your dopamine is low and so you're seeking out caffeine and energy, they're going to show up in those ways. But emotionally, they'll also show up. So for a lot of men, when we're not dealing with our unresolved conflicts and stresses in our day, then we might find, as your example, later in the day, you're really craving something. So you have to sort of stop and look, like, did something trigger me today? Did something trigger me at work? Did something trigger me with my partner or my kids? And so really exploring what is actually causing the craving is key. But so often we'll be stressed, we'll go to whatever food of choice that we want, and we're eating it and overeating without any consciousness in the moment. And then what often happens is that after we've eaten that food, we go right into guilt and shame about eating it. I have no willpower or no motivation, or I got to just burn that off tomorrow in the gym. And what we've done is that we've actually stopped, we failed to stop and actually explore what the trigger really was, because that's where the work is. That's where the real understanding of what these food cravings are asking of us or calling us towards is actually to open a door and explore the unresolved stresses.
So here we are. You're at the end of the day, you're hungry, kind of moods up and down and swinging here. What better question would you ask yourself internally? Say, okay, here I am, my day's stressful. I had a stressful day, and I got to go to the gym. I know I have to do that. I got to get this done. I know I have to do this. And I'm over here, but I've got to be strong. I got to make sure that I get this. Okay. Is there a life hack? Is there a hack there to say, you know what? I'm just going to try. I'm feeling anxiety. Is there a food that would be better for anxiety? Say, is it an apple? Is it a banana, potassium? It's kind of like, all right, I'm feeling this way. I'm going to eat this food particle or food group as a hack. Is there possible ways to do that?
Absolutely. I think the key is that for men especially, it's protein. And it's like, what's going to ground me? What's going to calm me? What's going to give me my energy to now go and do the next thing on my to-do list or to go to the gym or whatnot. So it's protein. So from an energetic perspective, protein is very earthing and it's very grounding. So in a very high stress day, a go, go, go kind of day, we need protein to earth us. But protein also contains so many nutrients that we need for our brain. So our amino acids that make our neurotransmitters come from eating protein. So eating grass-fed steak, bison, lamb, dark poultry, fatty fish, seafood, all of those will really help give the body what it needs to think clearer, to calm itself down, to ground that sympathetic stress response. So that's huge. And then for men, listen, protein, especially animal-based protein, super high in zinc. And zinc so you can think. Zinc for your dink, so to speak. So, for men, that's probably one of the most important quick grabs that you can have. Even if you're on the go and quick, you're better to, grab a high quality, beef jerky or like a pepperoni stick just to earth, as opposed to going to do the chips or the French fries or the carbs, right? Because that's not going to necessarily serve the body.
And going in for the ice cream and say, okay, I need some chocolate, or I want chocolate, or I want that sweetness, because from my experience, I'm going, I'm going to have some sweets, and then I have it, and I go, geez, I don't feel too well.
Exactly, because you just spiked your blood sugars. And if it's sweet, it's really interesting. Sometimes we crave sweet because we didn't eat enough good fat in our day. So actually, the tongue recognizes fats as sweet. So if we're eating a lot of avocado or nuts or seeds or fat from our animal protein, the tongue recognizes that as sweet. So it gets satiated from that perspective. So again, looking for those high quality fats as a way to say, okay, that's what I'm going to eat instead of the ice cream is going to give you so much better energy, focus, drive that we really need in our day.
What do you find with the food groups out there with food? Because the food groups has changed this year, I'm understanding. What was the United States? They changed. They want you to eat more of this, or I think more breads and stuff like. You don't have the food chart.
You're talking about the food pyramid, I believe.
The food pyramid,
yes.
Yeah. Didn't that change this year?
Well, yeah, it got flipped over onto its head because we know that the food pyramid is very outdated. The food guide, it's very outdated. Usually the high carbohydrate load that was listed on the bottom of the pyramid, we now know is what really drives, metabolic disease, metabolic syndrome. So it really got flipped over on its side, or I would say upside down, right? But we definitely, the macronutrients are key. They're the foundations, our protein, our essential fats, our carbohydrates coming from fruit and vegetable, and our water. Those are our foundations. They literally give the cells what they need to function. The cells feed the blood, the tissues, the hormones, the organs. So it's really about not so much food groups, but the macronutrients and understanding what they do to the health of the body.
All right, hit that button, subscribe, and now let's get back to the show. So when you look at that, and I'm talking to the food group when we're talking this, right? Where the periodic that table was, what did you call it?
The food pyramid.
The food pyramid.
Yeah.
Okay, because I keep remembering because I know they changed it, and then you've been doing this for 20 some odd years. How did you feel about it then? and then all of a sudden they're changing it now. Is it one of those things that you'd go back and go, I can't believe that they're doing it now when they should have did this then? Like, why is that? Because with the experience that you bring and the expertise and the therapy that you're bringing to the food, doesn't that contradict what's going on?
Well, yeah, when I first got into nutrition 23 years ago, 25 years ago, we knew that, a high carbohydrate diet was what was feeding so much of our chronic disease. And if you look at the food pyramid back then, it was at least the Canadian food pyramid and the US one as well, right? The food guide, it's driven by the agricultural and the dairy association. So of course there was, there weren't nutritional therapists that were creating that food guide. It was those associations that were sort of controlling and guiding what we should be eating, but they weren't necessarily making conscious health choices with that. So yeah, we should have flipped it 20 plus years ago, if not more, because if we actually look way, way back to the 1980s, if we look at what the Heart Smart diet was and what was recommended to schools and hospitals, et cetera, it is driving disease, because they were high carbohydrate, low protein, low fat diets. And now we're doing completely the opposite, and it's shifting people's health as a result. Yeah.
So why did you get into this?
Why did I get into this? Well, I've always had a love for eating well and taking care of my body. So I wanted to inspire other people to do the same. But on a deeper level, I grew up with a mom who was a chronic dieter, friends with eating disorders. And so I was always very curious as the psychology as to why people struggle with food. Something that's so essential to our well-being, our life. It's our longest lasting relationship, eating food every single day of our lives. Why do some people struggle so much? So I wanted to really help and inspire people to transform their relationship with food and with body and themselves, to have a joyous and meaningful relationship with food, and to really understand what the psychology was behind driving the conflict that so many people have with it. So that became my passion.
So as you got into it, okay, and you're researching and you're studying, how did you make it into a career?
Well, when you find what you love to do, you just want to help other people do it. So I just knew that this was the path for me. I actually started as a social worker, to be honest with you, and realized very quickly that's not the way that I wanted to practice. I loved counseling. I loved, helping people in that way. But I knew that that wasn't the road for me. So when I got into nutrition, it inspired me so much that I was like, I just want to consult with people and coach people and guide people. So I just created a practice of helping people optimize their health with the power of food.
All right, so let's get down a little deeper in this, because what's interesting, we're going to talk about nutrition. I don't know, I know a little bit about nutrition just because I do this and macros. But as a therapist and psychologist basically in nutrition, how would somebody get a hold of you and say, how do we start?
Well, often people will, online, they're going to seek out, nutrition psychology or eating psychology. They might be seeking out nutrition and mental health. So those are ways that people might find me online. But honestly, it's word of mouth. Practitioner referrals to me is how people usually find me. But how we start is we sit down and I do a 90-minute thorough comprehensive nutritional intake. I'm looking at your health history, your current health, like why are you presenting with the symptoms that you are? We're taking a look at your lifestyle and doing a really deep dive into your relationship with food and then what you're actually eating. So it's not just like very generic meal plans that are given to somebody. I'm really trying to understand the person that's sitting with me and to really do a deep understanding as to why they might struggle with food or why, they feel like their willpower is just not enough to helping them stay away from the chips or the ice cream. So that's how people work with me. And we go on a journey of exploration.
So would you say you're different than so you have a trainer, a personal trainer, and they said, oh, here's your nutritionist, okay? Would you put yourself more on the nutritionist side of it? So because you're psychology in this nutrition, but because you have trainers that they say they're nutritionists, because it's interesting. Because you're sitting here for the first time, and as a man, and I'm listening to this, I'm going, well, I know what I can eat and not eat. I work out and do this, but it's what you're saying to me is it's totally different.
Yeah.
Because why would I phone you? Like, really? And say, well, I don't have a problem with that. But then all of a sudden I start realizing, wait a second, there's more to this. And why wouldn't I ask myself a better question? It's not about me feeling better because I'm working out. It's about the fuel that I'm putting in my body. And why am I listening to the trainer that's saying, oh, well, you need this, 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 when you can actually say, wait a second, there's a nutritionist that's bigger than a nutritionist and more into the psychology of the nutritionist.
Yeah, I call myself a nutritional therapist, really, because I'm helping people understand what's right for them. It's very personalized and it's customized. Most of the time now in the world of nutrition, you're getting very generic advice. We have so much conflicting and confusing information on social media. We have anybody under the sun that can call themselves a nutritionist, quote unquote, without actually proper training, right? And so I'm really taking a look at functional nutrition. How does food actually react in your own unique biochemistry, and how is it affecting your body? How can we tweak and adjust your diet to improve your symptoms, to optimize your health? And how do we understand why you're having these challenging relationships with food or food cravings that regardless of how much you try to stop, they keep sabotaging your great nutritional intentions? So this is a deep dive. This isn't just, here's a generic food plan that everybody else got that your your trainer maybe have given you. Not to say that those food plans are wrong or bad, but they're very surface level. I don't know about you, but I always would love to just know if somebody could tell me exactly what's right for my body, that's who I want to go to. I don't want generic, and I certainly don't want collective advice that you can just get on social media, and I certainly don't want fads. I want to know what's going on in my biochemistry, how can I optimize it, and how can I explore why I'm having these unwanted relationships with food.
And it's interesting because, like you say, social media, they're following this. It's the trend of the day. Okay, here's the diet. There's a South Beach. There's this whatever they are. Okay, so here's all these diets, and it's interesting where everyone's going, well, here's my metabolic rate, and then I'm going to use AI. So AI comes in. Well, I've got to feed it this. I'm going to ask this a better question there, but not knowing that for therapist, and in nutrition to deep dive what you're doing. Does AI come a big factor in what you do too?
Yeah, listen, AI is great if you want to just type in, can you create me a meal plan for da 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 da? And of course, it probably can, and it'll do, it'll give you what you're looking for. In terms of really doing the deep dive into understanding, is your craving or unwanted eating behavior, is it physical in nature, is it emotional in nature, or is it soulful in nature? I'm not sure that AI can decipher that, right? That's where I come in. So again, I'm more interested in helping people who've been around the block, who've tried so many things, and yet they're still either not feeling the best that they can, not getting the results they're seeking, or they're still finding that they're having an unwanted, relationship with food or unwanted eating behaviors that are getting in the way. That's where my expertise will come in.
So is there one tip you would say to listeners that they should grab a hold of and think of what they should do? Just one tip. Say, hey, listen, don't have chips, or don't eat after 7, or something like that. Is there one thing that's so common that everybody should be doing?
Yeah, and it's probably not going to be what you're going to expect that I'm going to say, but it's really actually about get into a relationship with your food, because your body is always giving you feedback. Your symptoms after you eat, whether it's bloating or heartburn or headaches or fatigue, those are all symptoms, your feedback letting you know that what you may have just eaten is not working for you. It's not your best fuel mix. Or get in relationship with your body when you do have a food craving, actually stop and listen. Is it because I didn't eat well enough in the day today? Is it maybe because I did get triggered at work or in my relationship today? Or is it because I'm actually not fulfilled and I'm bored and I need to actually explore that? So our body through symptoms and through emotional eating moments are all amazing feedback, and we're not listening. And that, again, is where I come in, because I help to decipher the messages of the body to help us understand what is it telling you, and how can we then work with food in a unique and different, way that's going to help start creating some shift.
What about boredom? I'm eating because of boredom.
That's a big one. That's a very common, reason why people tell me they'll eat. Often boredom eating is because you're not fulfilled, because what you did in your day isn't based on what you would have chosen to do or what you love to do or what inspires you. So often when you're bored, it's just a lack of fulfillment. So the number one thing you can do with that is ask yourself, what would I really love to do? And go and start doing it. Because so many people are living their days either hating their jobs, unfulfilled in their relationships, just not doing what they love on a, social or spiritual level, whatever that might look like for them. And so that's where that boredom food comes in. So as soon as you're finding yourself bored, you got to ask yourself, what is most missing in my life? And start seeking that out.
So you're sitting there and you're ready to eat, and I'm bored. Okay, now what do I do? Yeah, okay, I'm bored. Well, what do I want to do? Well, maybe I want to go lay down and have a sleep. Well, that's a different sign. Okay, you're depressed maybe. So here's the boredom. Should you go for a walk?
Absolutely. If that would fulfill you, absolutely go for a walk. Number one, just because it's going to shift your energy, right? And it's going to just shift the vibration of how you're feeling, If it's an anxious board, like you're antsy and you don't really know what to do with yourself, that's also a good opportunity to move your body, right? Because you just have pent up energy that needs to be moved and released. But also, for those who truly want to do deeper exploration, pen to paper. What is boring in my life? What would start making me feel more excited in my life, and actually take some time to sit and explore it, like sit with yourself. Because the easy thing to do is go eat the bag of chips, right? But at the end of the day, you're still going to be bored, right? So it's really the opportunity to go inward and do the work that your body's asking you to do.
And it's interesting because I know if I go to the gym, I actually have to, no matter what it is, I look at meals as fuel, because as soon as I'm done the gym, I go home, I have to have something there, or else I'll grab something over here, just to fill. I got to eat something, but if I have it already pre-made, it's there. Sure, I got to throw it in the microwave, but it doesn't taste very good. And it's just, okay, because once I've eaten it, it's like, okay, there's no craving of I have to eat, and then it settles down.
Yeah, you're satisfied, you're satiated. And listen, you're right, Kevin, like good nutrition and a healthy relationship with food does require time and foresight and preparedness, right? And so when those steps aren't happening, then we find ourselves in some maybe unhealthy eating traps, right? So yeah, it does take time and intention. But if you have a high value on working out and optimizing your health, then just linking your nutrition to that is key, right? How will taking some time to prep my food or prepare proteins or make sure I've got that food ready to go when I'm home from work or the gym. When you actually start asking those quality questions, it's important. But for somebody who may not be as highly driven in their health and their nutrition, which is also common, for some people, health is a lower value for them, right? So the time, the energy, the focus, the money doesn't go towards nutrition. But you can always link it to what is most important to you. That will give you purpose to make it a bit more of a higher intentioned focus. So for example, as I said earlier, like if work is a number one priority for you, you have to ask, how will taking more time to prepare my food, to take it with me to work, to stop and actually eat in the day, how will it make me more productive at work? How will it help me get those clients? How will it help me increase my financial output? How is it going to help me be more focused? So finding the link to do it is key.
And would you recommend for entrepreneurs, people out there, business owners, have your meals already prepped, have them already made for the day, so all of a sudden you're not going out for lunches for pizza or this, and eat before you go for lunch with a client.
Yeah, so absolutely. I think it's really important. How do you want to show up is a good question to ask yourself every day. How do you want to show up in business? How do you want to show up in your relationships, with your friendships? And typically, I think we all want to show up with high energy and high vibration. And your food really dictates how you're going to show up in your day. And if you're forgetting that part or not putting any time and care into what you're nourishing yourself with, it absolutely impacts how you show up. I always say, we talk about what you dress and how you show up and how you dress matters. Well, what you eat absolutely matters because it affects your energy and what you're putting out to the people right in front of you. So yeah, it affects your bottom line.
Yeah. So how do people find you?
amybondar.com.
And anywhere else that they can find you? Phone numbers? Just
Yeah,
that?
sure. Phone number. No, I'm going to say amybondar.com, or you can email me at amy@amybondar.com. I do 20-minute complimentary phone calls, which you can book on my website at amybondar.com, and we can figure out what's going on for you and if I'm the right fit, and I'll explain my approach of how we work, and then we can move from there.
Well, you know what? Thank you for being on, because anyone that's thinking about nutrition, anybody that's looking for mental health, that actually understanding what the inside of your body actually needs to fill up, you know what? This is a great episode to actually listen to that and have that. You know what? Like, share, hit that button, subscribe to Shed Talk, and you know what? Give Amy a call, see what happens. You know what? What's the worst thing that can happen? You get healthy. Thank you very much for joining me on Shed Talk.
Thanks, Kevin. It was great. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Now you know. Shed Talk.